Okay, let's talk about functions. First thing we need to know is a couple terms here, including the word function and what that means. So a function is basically a relationship between a couple variables, and we'll usually use x and y, but it's how they're connected, and the dependent variable depends on the other variable. So the one it depends on is the independent variable. So we have an independent variable. The dependent one is set up the value depending on what we choose for the first one, and that relationship is called a function. So here's what it looks like. We'll usually have y and x because those represent the graph values, and y is equal to, let's say, 3 times x plus 5. Okay, so the y depends on what happens to x, what we put in for x, and that makes it dependent, and then we can plug in anything for x we want. And now instead of y, we'll often call it f of x, a function of x, and that'll make it more clearly defined. But when it comes to graphing, we would still graph it as a y value on the graph there. So let's look at a table. We've got some x values. Those are independent. We pick those randomly. We can pick any we want. And f of x depends on whatever we pick for x. So let's say x was 2. I come over here, plug it in. 3 times 2, 6, plus 5 is 11. So now the dependent value, f of x, had to be 11 because we chose 2. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, plus 5 more is 2. So the f of x has to be 2. Okay?